everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today, I'm going to be doing my end of the month wrap up for January. I'm going to go over all the books that I read for the last 2 weeks of the month. If you are interested in the first half of January, go ahead and check out my mid-month wrap up. I will try to link that down below. I just want to go ahead and make this quick and dive in because I have quite a few books to talk about. One of them is going to be a rant. I'm just warning you. I was pissed about one of the books that I read this just recently. So it's one of the most recent books that I read. Anyways, I'll try not to be too crazy or too ranty and go on that one. But let's dive right in because I had to do this after work. I'm not like at my best here and I just needed to get this filmed and uploaded because I am still getting more dental work done this weekend. So I needed to do it today. So anyways, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and dive into my January reads. Okay, so to start off with, I do want to go over my stats just really briefly. I don't go over too much here, I just keep it basic. But I did read 28 books for January. I wanted to do more, but some of these were longer books. And again, I've brought up multiple times all the dental work I'm getting into. It's been a pain and I haven't really been able to focus on reading sometimes, but I still think 28 books is good. I did have 2 6-star reads. I'm sorry if you can hear my heater on in the background. It's cold out here in San Diego, so you may hear my heater. Come on. Anyways, I have 2 6-star reads, which were my first 6 stars of 2024. And I had my previous 6-star in the last video. So make sure to check that out. So I'll go over the other 6-star in this one. Then I had 14 5-stars, 2 4.5 stars, 6 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, and then I have 1 1-star, which is going to be the book that I'm ranting about. I felt bad doing I don't think I've ever given a book a 1-star before. And I was going to give it 2 stars because it was an arc to be nice. And that's me being generous. But I decided the more I thought about it, the more I ranted about it. It's a freaking 1-star and I'm going to give it a 1-star. But anyways, I'm already starting to rant about it. Let's go ahead and dive into the books that I read. The last half of the month, I read 16 books, so still really good. So the first book that I want to talk about was actually our buddy read. This was The Tryst by Lauren Blakely. And this was actually the first Lauren Blakely I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it. I think I might have given it the highest rating for the buddy read. But I actually really enjoyed it. I did think it was lacking a little something, and dragged near the end. So my little hangups were not that big, of a deal. My enjoyment level was high. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. And this was between Nick and Layla. And it is actually like an ex-boyfriend's dad. He's a billionaire. They kind of meet at a conference that she went to. She's she's a content creator building her brand with makeup and stuff. And so she's very she's, very dedicated and she is planning on building and growing. And so she's very smart when it comes to business and trying to promote herself. So she went and he was a guest speaker at this. And she instantly saw him. They hit it off. Let me tell you that at this conference thing, she's pretty ballsy, which I thought was kind of crazy to have that amount of confidence to go up to an older man. It's an age gap, obviously, and kind of just put it out there. And she's a virgin. I don't know. I thought, wow, that's some balls when you're not even I don't know. It's not like you have to have sex to have, an ego or, balls or courage to go up and talk to somebody. But that was kind of felt a little unrealistic to me, but I didn't care. And he ends up kind of like wooing her for like this one night stand. They go out to like a nice restaurant, dancing. They're like, the dirty talk, the chemistry between them was off the charts in the beginning. Like, this was a 5-star for me in the beginning because I was loving the banter. I think a lot of times in books, the banter really falls short or it doesn't seem realistic. And it made me wish that I would have gotten the audiobook because Teddy Hamilton narrates. And I think that would have been amazing just hearing him narrate some of these lines. So they have like a one-night stand, and, he lives in, I think, London, UK somewhere. So they know nothing's really going to happen with them. But he ends up kind of moving back for reasons to New York, and he like hits her up and they're going to meet up. And they end up accidentally running into each other when she's having dinner with his son. And they're planning on working on like this charity that he wants to run. And they realize this is her ex-boyfriend's dad, and they don't say anything. And this is where I had my hang up on it, because really, like, this ex-boyfriend, they dated for a couple months. They never had sex. They're mostly like really good friends. And so I didn't see the issue in just telling him right then. So that kind of annoyed me, but it wasn't like holding me back from enjoying it. But I did think like it didn't really need to be angsty or hidden from the friend. But I did like how adult they were and how they had grown-up conversations and communication. And when the son does find out, I thought that was handled really well. So I did overall really enjoy this. I thought the end kind of went on a little bit, but honestly, I had a great time. So I gave it 4.5 stars and 3.5 chilies. And I would definitely recommend it. I love a ex-boyfriend or boyfriend's dad, but this just felt like friend's dad to me. But it was still really good. Okay, sorry about that. I just had to get a drink. My throat is kind of feeling icky, so I might not sound really good right now. Just bear with me. The next book that I read was actually from my 12 Recs from 12 Friends. I put out that on Instagram, and I got recommendations. So I'm trying to do like a book a month so that I can hit that goal by the end of the year. So I read The Highlander by Kerrigan Byrne. This was recommended to me by Crystal from Books Forever After. This is the third book in the Victorian Rebels series. She actually really wanted to recommend Highwayman, but I'd already read that. So we basically said, okay, like whatever one in that series, let's do that. So I actually really loved this. I listened to this on audiobook. It is available on AnyPlay if you're interested. And this is between Liam Mackenzie and Mina. Her real name is Philomena, but she goes by Mina. And I just want to warn you, Kerrigan Byrne does write darker historical romance, so just be prepared. The beginning of the book is really dark, but it gets like a lot lighter, and I loved it the rest of the book. So if you have a hard time with it in the beginning, just try to push through those kind of triggering things, because Mina is basically married to this abusive psycho husband, and he has her put into like an asylum, and they basically test her. Like, they kind of like are pretty much torturing her. She's about to get like sexually assaulted in the beginning of this book. They threw her in like ice water, and they're just really abusive. And she happens to get rescued by the hero from the first book and the second book. And so she kind of goes on the run. She goes to Scotland under a different name. She still goes by Mina, but a different last name, to be the governess of Liam. Yeah, Liam Mackenzie. And he is actually the demon. He's known as the Demon Highlander. He has a really like dark, horrible, evil father and past, and he was, I think, a colonel in the military. So he's very widely known, and people are scared of him, but he's actually a single father. He's got a couple kids, and they're kind of in their teenage years, so they're not like super young or anything. But so he actually hires her as the governess, and she comes to kind of stay with them. It's kind of like it feels like gothic, mysterious kind of place. And so she goes out there, but she's kind of hiding her secret. She doesn't know who she really is. And, you know, she's kind of almost feels like she's being haunted by something. There's creepy stuff going around in like the house, and they're very like attracted to each other, but she's also like kind of scared of him, which she should be. He's a pretty scary guy. But I loved her relationship with the kids and trying to mend things with like between the father, who was never really part of their life. And I just really loved this. I love a good Highlander romance. So if that's something you're into, I would definitely pick this one up. I love Kerrigan Byrne. I love darker historical romance. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars and then 2.5 chilies. It was fantastic. Trigger warnings. There is the essay, domestic abuse and torture. Again, that's mostly in the beginning of the book, what she was going through. So if you get past that, I think it's a lot better. So the next book that I read was On the Mountain by Riley Hart. This is was an arc, and it is an romance. We have Crow and Cyrus. Crow was actually born into a cult. His father was a cult leader, and something tragic really happens in his childhood where his father basically like killed his mother and would have killed him. And so the cult gets like basically disbanded. They all leave. He gets put into like the foster system, and he continuously tries to like run away from the foster system to go back, you know, to the mountains where they lived as a cult, and nobody's there. Eventually he does, as he's a grown adult now, and he lives up in the mountain. He's kind of like, you know, outcast of the town. He comes down every few months to kind of get supplies or what he needs. Then we have Cyrus, who is a recovering drug addict. He has a lot of depression and anxiety issues. So they really dive a lot into like mental health in this book. And he's kind of come to this small town to start fresh. He was in kind of a toxic, abusive relationship. And he went to rehab and got clean. And his boyfriend would always just try and get him on drugs and to hook up with friends. So he's, you know, in a sensitive place. And he just is immediately attracted and interested in Crow. And he tries to help him at one point. And he kind of goes up to the mountains and gives him the groceries that he had to leave behind because these guys were being bullies. And so they just continue to kind of have these interactions to the point where Cyrus is kind of like going to stay up there with him during like the snow, like when it gets like the bad snow weather, they'll be like kind of stranded up there. So it gives you that snowed in, stranded vibes. But it was really beautiful. I was very touched because it was like two really damaged people coming together. You know, Crow isn't like, he doesn't talk. He can talk, but he doesn't really like to talk. He has issues communicating. And then you have Cyrus, who takes things always the wrong way and has major depression issues. So I really loved their journey together, and it was just really beautiful. So I gave this one 5 stars and 3.5 chilies. It was very spicy. The sex scenes were hot. I love me my male-male romance, so I would highly recommend this. Okay, so then I listened to an audiobook. I listened to The Penalty Box by Odette Stone. This is the 3rd book in the Vancouver Wolves hockey series. And I really liked the first couple books. This one kind of didn't work for me. It was okay. I did listen to it on Audible. It's on the Audible Plus. I don't know. I think the whole series might be available on there. So I would definitely check it out. But I listened to this. This is about Mika and Charlie. Mika's like a Russian hockey player, and his reputation isn't looking so good. So the agents are kind of trying to get him to clear up his reputation. Charlie has basically taken on a bunch of debt that she has. I think it was from her brother, if I remember correctly. I might have that wrong. I might be messing that up. But she has all this debt, and this kind of like almost like mafia guy that's like making her pay off this debt, and she has like no money. She works for like the PR agency kind of people that work for him. And so this ends up being like an arranged marriage, or not arranged marriage, marriage of convenience, sorry. A marriage of convenience hockey romance, which is interesting. But I just didn't really connect to the characters. I didn't feel their chemistry at all. she was like all like supposedly hating on him, yet she had a crush on him forever, so she was just mean to him. It just was kind of dumb to me. And it was just all over the place. It was so chaotic and had the pacing was off. And then it's like the bad guy. Like, I've noticed this with the last couple Odette Stones in this series, that she likes to throw in this over the top like danger at the end of the books, and like who this stalker guy is. It was obvious from the get-go, and it was just so over the top at the end that I was just kind of rolling my eyes, and I just kind of didn't connect to this book. And then it was just like a lot of sex with like no real connection between them. So I don't know. It just didn't work for me. So I gave this one 3.5 stars and 3 chilies because it did have some good spice. Okay, so then I read an arc. This is Waiting Game by G.A. Mazurke, which is Serena Ackroyd, and she's doing a hockey series. I read the first book. I got an arc for that, and I really loved it. Warning, these are large hockey romances, so I think that the first one was like over 600 pages. This one's over 500 pages. But honestly, it doesn't feel like it, like, because I couldn't put the book down, and I'm just really interested in these characters and this like found family, and it's just very, I really love it. It's different for Serena Ackroyd, and I really enjoy it. So this is the second book in the New York Stars. These do have some ties to her 5 Points Mafia series because one of those mafia brothers actually owns this hockey team in New York. So in this, we have Cole and Mia. And Mia actually was introduced in the first book. And I won't totally give it away, but basically she kind of betrayed the heroine from the first book. And you looked at her like kind of badly. So I was kind of worried, would I even like this heroine because she did something kind of fucked up? But I actually really loved her because she had reasons and she feels bad for what she did. And she was in a bad situation. So it's like I had a lot of empathy for her character. So she is actually, she worked at the bar the heroine worked at. Her uncle was like owned the bar. Her uncle just passed. And so now the bar is going into her name and she's going to be running it. Unfortunately, her uncle was really bad with money and she's like largely in the hole where it's like she does not have any money for this. She's really stressed out. She has a lot of debts for this bar and she's trying to keep it running so these employees keep their job. And it's been in her family for years. So I think like their great grandfather was like a famous baseball player or something. So she actually is also teaching, she teaches like figure skating, and Cole is on the hockey team and he wants to take this class to kind of get more finesse on the ice. And so he ends up meeting her. She kind of breaks down their first meeting. But what was funny is right before they're like tutoring her class, he like swiped on her like profile on a dating app. So then they end up kind of having a one-night stand. And it was like amazing. He wants more kind of thing. He's like all in from the get-go on our heroine. But he kind of gets back home and he finds out like, you know, that she screwed over the heroine from the first one, which is basically like a sister to him. They have this thing called ballet families where it's like people that were like playing hockey and going to play professionally. They kind of get with like a family that supports them and helps them through that. So that heroine is like a sister to him. So the hero from the first book's like, you cannot date her or talk to her ever again. So he ghosts her. But when he goes back home, his brother was actually watching a cam girl and it ends up being our heroine. And so he gets his brother out of that and he starts to be like one of her #1 customers that she doesn't know who he is. And he doesn't really want her to be like a cam girl, like just kind of talks it and pays her a lot of money so she can just do it for him. And then that way he knows he's supporting her money problems. And then eventually he gets over it where he wants to date her and be with her. And so they kind of reconnect and start this secret relationship. They're kind of hiding it to make sure that it's a real thing before they tell the heroine, his sister, what was going on. So I really loved this. The thing that made this book so amazing was Cole. He is a romance smut-loving guy. He brings up like stuff and tropes from books. Like I love this one part where he was like, miscommunication, it's my least, like it's my most hated trope. And I love that because us romance readers, we can all relate to the stupid miscommunication trope. Hate it. Then he even at one point he bound fan fiction for her, which it's like, oh my God, like this was just catered to us romance readers. So I loved Cole. He was like this flashy dresser, suave, like funny, happy guy. And he was just so good to her and trying to help her through her issues. So I absolutely loved this. This one I gave 5 stars and 3.5 chilies. I really did think it was fantastic. There are some trigger warnings. There's animal neglect, not by our characters or anything. Previous animal death, and loss of a spouse due to cancer. That's another person, like a hockey player on the team. And that actually got me like really emotional in this book. So I absolutely loved it. Okay, then I read another arc. I have had lots of arcs here this month. And this was The Heart of Smoke by K. Webster. This is the 3rd book in the Shameful Secrets series. And I haven't read the first 2, so you could definitely go into this without reading it. But I want to read those other ones. After reading this and seeing what those tropes were, like I think there's like a stepdad, stepdaughter, and son, like they all share. And then like a teacher kind of student one. So I definitely want to read those. But anyways, this one is a male romance. And it is like a really dark, damaged, scarred hero. We have Jude. And he is like one of the brothers of the characters from the first 2 books. And when he was younger, like in high school, he was kind of set to like probably go pro to play football. But a really tragic event happened where the house was like burning down and his mother died. He tried to rescue her and he got badly burned. And, and he basically kind of becomes this hermit stuck in the house. He doesn't really go anywhere. So at this point, his father is like fed up and wants help for his son. And he also wants help for the rest of the family because they have a lot of drama going on in this family. So he hires this therapist, and that was Tate, to basically kind of be their personal therapist, living with them and helping them. And his big goal really is to help Jude get better. And so he kind of, it starts out like kind of enemies a little bit, but not totally. It's just like Jude doesn't want him there. He doesn't trust him. He wears a mask all the time. And so he's very like shut off. He doesn't ever let anybody see him without his mask. And eventually, like, he has him move in with him and is like really oddly, this is kind of like a bi-awakening too, because he had only been with a girlfriend from high school. He hasn't been sexual with anybody for years. And he starts to be very attracted to Tate and doesn't understand it, but he's open to it. And so they have this amazing connection and chemistry, and it was just so hot. Tate has a stalker that he's trying to hide from. So that brings in this kind of like danger element. But I really loved this. It was such a hot male romance. I love me my scarred, damaged hero, and Tate's going through a lot, and they were just so cute together. And I loved how the family just completely accepted Tate and like loved him. So it was kind of like a found family aspect to this. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. Of course, I love K. Webster, so absolutely loved this book. And I need to get those first 2 because it sounds good. Oh, and I did give it 3.5 chilies. Trigger warnings, there are some dark stuff in here. We do have previous SA, an SA attempt, domestic abuse because his stalker is an ex-boyfriend that was very violent with him. And then death of a parent. Okay, so then I finally read A Soul to Keep by Opal Reyne. I've had this on my TBR forever, but I just kept putting it off. I ended up buying this on Audible, and the audiobook was amazing. This was like a dual narration where it was like, not just like split by the chapters, but they were like you know, it's a dual narrated, and it was so good. I think I put it down. Wolfgang Milliken. I've never heard him, but his voice was so cool because he's like the voice of this monster. Because this is a monster romance. This is between Orpheus and Rhea. This is the first book in the Duskwalker series, and it's a very interesting world that's set up in here. I think the world building was really well done, and I can't wait to continue with the series. But in this, you basically kind of have where there's like demons that can come through and, you know, they attack people. And so there's this Duskwalker that can basically kind of put a protection spell on the town, but he wants like a spouse or a companion. So they kind of like find somebody. They have to be willing. Our heroine isn't necessarily willing, but her family was killed. Her whole family except for her was killed by demons. And so she's kind of like an outcast of the town. They think she's like, you know, corrupted and like, you know, a curse and all that kind of stuff. So they basically tell her, you're going to do this or you can be like locked up in our prison. So he ends up seeing her and takes her with him. And she goes back with him to his home. He actually has like a full house that he had previously made. He's tried this for hundreds of years and the women never survive. There is one woman that was like around first that like wanted a house, but you don't know what happens to her and what happened in that situation. But it's like this really slow burn romance of him just like wanting a companion and them slowly building this relationship. It's really cool because like he didn't really have memories. He was like just kind of like this darkness. And then he like, I think he ate like a wolf, and then like that's how he has like this wolf skull. And then like he ate something else and got like the horns and stuff. So it was really cool. So I liked all the stuff going on with this world building. It was it was really romantic. I loved their connection. The sex was really hot. So I absolutely loved this. I ended up giving this one 5 stars and 3 chilies. And it was just a really great audiobook too. So then I finally finished the series except for the novella, which I read later, but I read Their Broken Legend by Nicci Harris. This is the 6th and final book except for that novella in the Kids of the District series. And let me tell you guys, this is my 6-star read. I don't know how Nicci Harris does it. She did it with Cosa Nostra, Max Butcher's romance. I bawled my eyes out in that book. And I cried for like the whole last 30% of this book. And it's a mafia series. Like I don't cry in mafia. So I don't know. Nicci just has the magic touch. She gets me so emotional. So this is between Xander and Kaya. And at first I didn't really think I was going to like it as much as the other ones because Kaya's very like a prickly heroine, comes off very cold, bitchy. Her family kind of like lost everything. They were very rich and her dad, you know, did embezzlement and all these other things and stole money kind of thing. So now he's going to prison and she's like a total daddy's girl and blames her mom for staying with her dad when he cheated on her. So it's like her whole mentality. You're kind of like, you're selfish. You're kind of a bitch. So that's what I thought of her in the beginning. But she really has a good arc and growth in this book and kind of like actually questions who she is and how she's treated her mother and the way she's let her dad get away with horrible things. And so I really liked her growth in this. And she basically kind of has run-ins with Xander. Xander is the last brother out of the Butcher brothers. And he's very smart, super intelligent, and where his family wanted him to be a lawyer, but he didn't want to do it. And so he's actually a fighter, like his father was a pro fighter, and he's a fighter, and he boxes, and that's what he's been basically training to do. He kind of hits it off with her. They have a few sexual run-ins, and the thing with Kaya too is she never wants to pleasure the guy. That's why I thought she was so selfish. She would like use guys to go down on her and she would never do anything in return. And I just was like, I don't like you. Like you're selfish. But she totally turns it around with Xander and he's all in and very possessive and alpha and very Butcher. If you know the Butcher brothers, you know what I'm talking about. But he actually has, and this is kind of a spoiler a little bit, but he has a head injury from boxing, which you know, you'll get into that. And it has long-reaching effects for him, his health, their future. And it was just so freaking emotional. This is kind of wrapping up the series. So this is, sorry, my cat is over here digging around. So anyways, this is wrapping up this series. So you get to see like just the conclusion of like this family that you just love, seeing Max and Cassidy and seeing Clay and his woman, his fawn, his little deer. I just was such a good conclusion, and Xander just like really broke my heart. And everything, like when Kaya is full in and in love, she stands by her man. And it was just really beautiful, very emotional. I cried a lot. I highlighted a lot. So I'm going to have to buy this one. I don't know. It's just something special to me, this series. So I gave this 6 stars and 3.5 chilies. I do want to mention trigger warnings, which may spoil it. So you might want to skip till the next book. But mentions of child abuse, SA, and then head injury, which is like CTE, which leads to a lot of issues in this book. So I would highly recommend the Kids of the District series. If you have not read it yet, I absolutely love it. Then I read Archer's Voice. I finally read this book. I've never read Mia Sheridan before. And I brought that up in a live show and they were like, you have to read it. And this book was just so hyped that like I always just kept putting it off. I ended up listening to this. Now that Spotify, if you have premium, you get like a certain amount of hours. I think it was like 15 hours of like audiobook if you're on premium. So I was able to listen to this on Spotify. And I thought it was cute. I just think it's really overhyped for what it is. I've read better. But it's a very cute, you know, small town damaged hero. He's a virgin hero, which I always love a virgin hero. And this is between Archer and Bree. And Bree has like gone through some major trauma, losing her father. He died in front of her. And so she has PTSD, and she kind of picks up and like moves to the small town to kind of start fresh. Get a break from that and all those memories. And so she's still suffering from PTSD, and she has run-ins with this guy, Archer, who's kind of a hermit living like alone at his house, and he can't speak. He's mute. He has something happen to his voice box where he can't speak. And like nobody even like tries to talk to him or deal with him, which was just crazy to me. But she immediately tries. She can speak sign language. So she starts to keep like showing up, and they start to build this friendship and then relationship. So I found Archer very sweet. I found this to be a cute small town romance. I just thought it was good. Like I didn't think it was this amazing book that a lot of people have made this out to be. So I think I probably would have liked it more if it wasn't as hyped, because I read better damaged heroes or like, you know, with trauma in a small town. But anyways, I did enjoy it. I gave this 4 stars. I think it was solid. I did, I think it's like 2.5 chilies, but so, yeah, I liked it. I just didn't think it's like worth as much hype as it has gotten. Okay, so these two I'm going to bring up together. I did record a vlog for this, so I'll be posting that soon, hopefully. I did Reign of a King and Rise of a Queen by Rina Kent. If you're watching my channel, you know I'm trying to get through Rina Kent's backlist, which is taking me forever. That's one of my big goals for 2024. So this is the Kingdom Duet, and this is with Jonathan King and Aurora. And Jonathan King was actually Aiden's father. He was in the previous series. I can't remember what that was called. I can't think of it off the top. Royal Elite. I think it's the Royal Elite series. Anyways, the first 3 books was Aiden. He was a psycho character that I loved. And his father, Jonathan, was even scarier. Like, he was kind of like made out to be a villain. And this is his romance. And he's a billionaire. He's ruthless. He doesn't really let emotions get a hold of him. And he happens to see Aurora at this party because Aurora is actually his dead wife's half-sister. And she kind of like disappeared and went into hiding a long time ago. Her father is a serial killer, and she kind of like went on the run, got away. She was in witness protection, but she didn't really trust them because they kind of always kind of thought she had something to do with her dad's killings, which is kind of stupid. People were like attacking her and blaming her for what her father did. So she's like disappeared forever, but her company is in bad situation. And so she was actually going to Jonathan's rival, which was Aiden's wife's father, to get help and funding. And she had to do it at this party, and Jonathan sees her, and he basically found a way where he manipulated people and had stuff over people where he got most of the shares to her company. So he owns the company. And so he says basically like, I'll own you for this period amount of time, and then you can have your company back. And so basically he makes her move in with him and kind of be his woman. He's very into BDSM and all that kind of stuff. She had never had an orgasm or thought that she didn't really care about sex. So she was okay doing this because she was like, I don't feel anything anyways. I don't care. But of course, Jonathan brings the pain with the pleasure, and she gets off with him. So this duet is their relationship. The first one, I gave 4 stars. I thought it was decent. It did leave a lot of plot holes, but that's what happens in a duet. I did think this could have just been one book, honestly, but, authors tend to do this a lot now. The second book, it basically filled in all the gaps. It was exciting. It picked up right off her last one. I love their sexual chemistry, and they start to really fall for each other. And I loved her trying to build a relationship with Aiden, who's a freaking ass. And so I really liked it. So I ended up giving the second one 5 stars, and then both of them were 3.5 chilies. So the next book that I read was The Friend Zone by Kristen Callihan. This is the second book in the Game On series. I actually listened to this on AnyPlay. It was narrated by, it was dual narration, but it was actually with Teddy Hamilton. So always love Teddy Hamilton. And this is between Gray and Ivy. And it's a football series. And this one was actually a really great Friends to Lovers. Friends to Lovers doesn't always work for me, but I really liked the way this one was handled. And Gray is a football star, and her dad is basically an agent, and he wants to become his agent once he leaves college and stuff because he's set to go pro. And he ends up kind of borrowing Ivy's car while she's overseas staying with her mom for the summer. And so they start up this texting relationship, and they just become really good friends. And so when he gets back in town, they just become best friends. And so they have this really great relationship, but they're both really attracted to each other, but afraid to push things past the friends. And then, she didn't think she could be with a football player, all these little things. So they do get up against some issues in this book. But I really loved their slow burn friends to lovers romance. And you could really feel that they actually have this deep connection. There is a twist at the end I won't give away, but I love the way it was handled. And I didn't mind it. So I actually really enjoyed this one. So I gave this one 5 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I finally continued. I've been lagging on this, but I finally continued the Monstrous series by Lily Mayne. I read Gloam, and I really loved this one. It's not my favorite, but honestly, it was so good. It is a very slow burn, sweet monster male romance again. This is the 4th book, and this is between Gloam and Adam. In the previous book, The Reek, you met Adam, and you also saw Gloam in that, because Gloam is this monster. He's really big and bulky, but he's got this cage on his head, and he's pulling this RV with this evil woman she goes around collecting monsters. And she showed up in the previous book because she wanted to get the Reek. And so Adam is actually friends with the guy that falls for the Reek. And he just sees this poor monster being forced, chained to this thing, has this cage. He can't talk. And so he goes out there and starts communicating with him. They would write in a notebook together. And he's like, I'm going to get you free. I will get you out of this. So eventually the lady's gonna leave, and he knows his opportunity of freeing him is like going out the window because this cage is not, it's like welded shut. He can't get it open. He needs tools and things. So he basically tells her like, oh, I want to work for you, blah, blah, blah. So she'll take him with her. And so they're like forced to like the monster's forced to pull this RV through many, many miles and this big journey, and they kind of camp out together and communicate through this notebook, and they start to just really fall for each other. And it was just so freaking sweet. Like Gloam is very like cinnamon roll, like sweet hero, and the stuff that he had to go through was just so tragic. And they even end up like at this cult that had like this weird following. So there's a lot of different stuff going on in this book. And then obviously we want to bring down this evil woman and her control over Gloam. So I absolutely loved it. You get to see the Reek again in this, and that was really cute. I do miss, you know, Win and Danny from Soul Eater. I want to see them again, but that's just because they're my favorite. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars because it was kind of a little slow at the, you know, during the middle. It might have just been a me problem, but it was kind of dragging a little bit for me, but it was still really good. And then I gave it 3.5 chilies. Then I listened to Restore Me by JL Seagers. I had seen this a lot last year about like some people's like favorite book. This is her husband died, and his best friend basically is like been mean to her forever. They've been around each other for like 12 years or something, I think it is. And he was just always cruel to her. But in reality, he had met her before her boyfriend when she was like, her husband, when she was like drunk one night. So she didn't remember, but he remembered, and he was like immediately like into her and wanted her. And so the fact that his best friend now was with her, he felt like he basically kind of had to be an asshole to push her away. So now it's years later and they have to work on a project together, and like they have this chemistry. Even though he's been mean to her this whole time, now all of a sudden he's flirting with her and being nice. Once he sees that she might be open to dating again, he doesn't want her to date anybody else. So they kind of start this like hooking up relationship. So I think the first half of this book was really good. It had good pacing. It had good angst. It had good buildup, but it just dragged on. I think this book could have been like 200 pages shorter, because it just constantly had repetitive sex scenes. Like I was rolling my eyes when like every chapter it was like another sex scene. So it made their relationship feel very physical, not emotional to me. Like I didn't feel it because they were constantly just effing. And I was bored. Like I was bored. And it kind of just dragged on and on with no further development in their relationship. They were miscommunicating. And we know I hate the miscommunication trope. So it just kind of fell flat for me, and I was just like bored for the last 50% of this book. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was first half probably a 5-star, and then the repetitive sex scenes and like it just is so the same thing over and over. Her insecurities, all that kind of stuff, just communicate already. Didn't like it that much. So I ended up giving that one 3 stars, 4 chilies, because it is a lot of sex. Okay, guys, I'm going to get on to my ranting most hated book, and I'm going to rant. So let me get a drink real quick. Okay, let's buckle in for a horrible book. I hated this book. I was actually... saw Jen from the Book Refuge had read it, and she talked about it on her live show, and then I saw that what she had rated it, and I was like shocked. And then so once I read it, we were messaging on Instagram because I had to rant. Like it is so bad. So anyways, the book, it's an arc, and I've never rated an arc this badly. I usually am like very generous. I don't want to rate like a new book badly, but this book was so horrible and disgusting and was not a romance. And I get it. It's the first part of a duet. I should probably tell you the book. I'm already ranting. This is Seeds of Malice by Maggie Cole. Now, Maggie Cole, this book doesn't even feel like Maggie Cole to me. Granted, I haven't read her most recent stuff. I only read like the beginning of her Mafia War series, and those were really good, and this was just atrocious. So this is the first book in the Wilted Kingdom duet. The first book is basically a dark college bully romance. And then the next book is like a second chance 10 years later, billionaire, like workplace, and she's going to get revenge for what he did to her. So in this book, we have Dax and Ivy. And Ivy is moving on to Dax's property with her dad. He's going to be working for Dax's his family. And Dax is super rich, super spoiled, super asshole. And don't get me wrong, I love a lot of bully romances. I can read non-con, I can read dub-con, and if it's done right. This is not done right. Dax sees her, and he like screws around and fucks multiple girls, and he's just this playboy and kind of fucks with people. And he needs a new toy to play with. And so he sees this innocent girl move onto his property, and he's like, that's what I want to play with. That's my new toy. I'm going to break her. And does he have a reason to bring this girl down, to do horrible things to her and then break her? No, there's absolutely no reason behind it. He just likes to do this. And so he basically manipulates her. He's supposed to be this master manipulator, but like it came off cheesy, and it made the heroine seem so freaking stupid. Like within the first 24 hours, she was like gone for him. She was lying to her dad, hiding a relationship with this guy. Her dad wanted her to stay away from him because he heard about how horrible he is, which he is. And she was like already like just doing whatever he wants. She was the most naive, pathetic, stupid heroine I've ever read. Where like this girl shows up within the first day that they're hanging out, like at his place, and is like wants to give him a blowjob, and she's like, "Oh, we can do stuff with you too, like to join." And she's like, "Oh, well, you lied." Like, and basically all he said, "Oh, we hooked up before, not last night," which it was last night. And he's like, "She's lying." And then he would make her feel guilty for not trusting him. Like, you just met him. And she's like, I'm going to stay away from him. And then like he has one conversation, makes an excuse, and she's like, believes everything he says. And so this guy basically, and his sister, which his sister was like this evil, over the top heroine, like side character that is just so stupid to me. And they both kind of play these games, and she's trying to hook up with her, but then calling her a homophobe. Like, it's just so dumb. Like, the people are mean to her. But he wants them to be mean to her so that he can come in and save her and look like the good guy. Then he goes and takes her to buy all these clothes. And he decides to take her virginity in that dressing room. And this is where I hated it. I hated it. He literally calls her slut and whore hundreds of times in this book. And he doesn't just do it in the sex scenes. He says it all the time. And he makes her like yell out like, "Oh, I'm your dirty slut. I'm your slut. I love being fucked like your slut." Like, he makes her say it over and over and over again, because guess what? He likes to film her, and he likes them to like her to be begging for it so that she can't say that he pressured her into anything. But if she doesn't do something, then he takes away his love and his like attention, and oh, we're breaking up. Like, he literally, like, forces her to do anal. And she does it because she's scared of losing him. And then does he do any prep? No, he doesn't. He literally screws her without any prep. She's a virgin anal. I fucking hated it. And then you have these other guys, and he's filming her everywhere, and they want to, like, break her. And he's supposedly catching feelings, but he's still doing it. Still manipulating her, calling her his little slut. I hated this book so freaking much. And this guy has no redeeming qualities. There's nothing even like, because the heroine just takes it, does whatever, gets manipulated, does whatever he wants her to do. She has no backbone. She doesn't question anything. Like, at least with Carter Mahoney and Untouchable, you have a heroine that's questioning Carter, that's trying to understand the way Carter's mind works, that's trying to see if she can, like, you know, maintain him so he's not spreading his psycho behavior to the world. It's a psychological, interesting book. This is just some douche treating her like crap, ruining her, filming her, doing all these horrible things to her, making her do group sex that she doesn't really want to do. It's freaking disgusting. So anyways, I hated this book, you guys. I don't know why I didn't DNF it. I think I kept reading it because it was an arc, but honestly, I gave it 1 star. I gave it 1 star. It's probably like 5 chilies because of the amount of sex. Like, there's so much sex, and it's disgusting sex. It made me like skim most of the sex scenes because it was gross. And if I have to hear him call her a whore or a slut one more time. So I have the arc. I just got the arc today for the second one, and I don't think I can read it. Like, I don't think I can do it. I don't care. I don't even know how this is the same Maggie Cole that wrote the Mafia Wars series. So do what you want to do. If you're interested in this, try it. But I fucking hated it, and I would recommend you never pick up this book. So anyways, that's enough ranting. If you read this and you want to rant with me, feel free to DM me because I have a lot to say, and it was disgusting. Like, I was disgusted. This is not a romance. I don't care if it's a duet. There was nothing redeemable about this guy. Okay, I need to stop. Okay, so let's end it on a happier note. I ended up, after that, I needed to read something short, quick, and made me feel happy. And that was the novella for the Kids of the District series by Nicci Harris. This is His Perfect Little Heirs. And basically, this is like an extended epilogue for the couples and the ones that had kids. Xander isn't really in this because he ends up going traveling with his woman and they don't really want kids. So, but this has Max Butcher. So this is 5 stars for me just for Max Butcher. Max Butcher is one of my book boyfriends. He is a grumpy, stoic, doesn't show you he loves you with telling you. He shows you he loves you with actions. And I just was, I love seeing Max and Cassidy and him being able to be present and be with her for this baby and pregnancy. Is beautiful. And then you have Clay and Fawn, and they're having twins. And you also see Bronson and his woman, and they're having a baby. And so it was just very feel good. It was sweet. It was a perfect little like cap to the book, to the series, and seeing all those boys and this amazing like family. And I just loved it. So I gave this one 5 stars because I love Max Butcher, and it gave me what I wanted with Max Butcher's story. And then I think it's like a 2.5, 3 chilies. There's some sex in there, but it's not like over the top, but it's very cute. I absolutely loved it. So those are the books that I read for the last half of January. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below what your favorite book was, if you recommend me anything, or if you read Seeds of Malice and you want to rant, reach out to me. Thank you so much for watching this. As always, if you could please like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you on the next one.